The Soviet Union was nothing like the way Western movies made it seem. You know, those Cold War thrillers where every Russian is trapped in some bleak concrete block with KGB agents lurking in every shadow. Well, the truth was stranger, and in some ways, even worse. Picture this. You wake up in a place where your private bathroom isn't private at all. The toilet and shower are shared with 7 other families. Every single morning turns into a mini military operation. Timing, strategy, patience, all just to brush your teeth before someone starts banging on the door. That wasn't unusual. That was normal life for millions of Soviet citizens. And while you're lying there right now, tucked into your cozy bed, with your personal bathroom just steps away, let me paint you a picture of what it was like to wake up on the other side of the Iron Curtain. Oh, and quick note, if you're enjoying this story, a like or a subscribe would mean a lot. I'm always curious too. Where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment with your city and the time there. It blows my mind that people tune into these stories from every corner of the world, some even falling asleep while listening. All right, let's jump back to the Soviet Union of the 1950s. Trust me, this is going to be a ride, but first, get comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows. Pull the blanket a little tighter. You'll want to be cozy for this journey. So, here we are. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a Soviet communal apartment in Leningrad, 1953. Stalin has just died, but his shadow is everywhere. The air in your room is sharp with cold. Technically, central heating exists, but it's unreliable at best. You exhale, and your breath turns into faint clouds. The thin blanket you've layered with coats for extra warmth has left you with a stiff back. Definitely not like your cushioned memory foam mattress today, with its perfectly controlled temperature. Your ears wake up before your eyes do. Pots clatter in the shared kitchen. A couple argues over who used the last spoonful of sugar. Somewhere down the hall, a toilet flushes, the old pipes groaning like they're in pain. A baby cries from the next room. The building itself is solid, pre-revolutionary construction, but the doors are thin. Sounds seep through in unpredictable ways. Still, you're one of the lucky ones. Your family has its own room, just one room, not an apartment, about 150 square feet. That's it. This single space is everything. Bedroom, dining room, living room, storage. When you're not cooking in the communal kitchen, you're eating here. When you have guests, they squeeze in here. Privacy? That's almost a foreign concept. Some might even call it bourgeois. You swing your legs over the side of a narrow bed, the same bed that doubles as a couch during the day. Across from you, your parents sleep on a fold-out tucked against the opposite wall. The little table between you will later serve as your dining table. Clothes hang from hooks along the walls. No closet, no dresser. Who has room for that? Every inch counts. Now it's time to face the first battle of the day, the bathroom. In a communalka with 8 families, timing is everything. Go too early and you'll freeze. Go too late and you'll be stuck in line, risking being late for work or school. Everyone in the building follows an unspoken routine, whether they like it or not. Each family gets about 15 minutes in the bathroom. Some mornings, that barely covers the basics. Using the toilet, splashing water on your face, brushing your teeth. You grab your toiletry bag, since everyone keeps their things separate, and your towel. You open the door carefully, avoiding the squeaky hinge that could wake the neighbor's baby. The last thing you want at this hour is an angry parent glaring at you. The hallway stretches out in front of you. It's dim, lit only by a single, tired yellow bulb. The parquet floor, once polished and elegant back when this place was a grand apartment for a wealthy family, is now dulled by decades of shoes scuffing over it. The wallpaper peels at the edges, showing older layers beneath, like slices of history stacked on top of each other, each design marking a different Soviet decade. The bathroom door is closed. Bad news. You step into line behind Dmitry Petrovich, the factory foreman, from the room near the entrance. He gives you a slow nod, his face puffy from sleep, gray stubble catching the weak light. "Nikolai's in there," he mutters, meaning the elderly widow who somehow spends the longest time inside, despite having almost no hair left to wash. "Been 10 minutes already." You sigh and lean against the wall. This is normal. This is life here, negotiating for space. Every Soviet child grows up learning it. While you wait, you glance toward the kitchen entrance, where a handwritten schedule is tacked up. It's a daily ritual, a way to divide cooking time so dinner doesn't turn into chaos when everyone's trying to use the stove at once. The kitchen itself is a strange mix of private and communal. Each family has a marked-off section in the refrigerator, a separate cupboard for dry goods, and often their own little burner. The main gas stove, once meant for a single household, has been hacked and modified over the years to handle 4, sometimes 5 pots at a time. The burners don't all work properly, and to avoid fights, some families even bring in their own portable burners. Finally, the bathroom door creaks open. Steam rolls out into the hallway. Nikolai shuffles past, her thin hair wrapped tightly in a towel. She gives you a short nod. Dmitry gestures for you to go first. His needs can wait. Yours seem more urgent. It's a small act of generosity, and in this system, small acts matter more than people realize. Inside, the bathroom is plain and worn down. A stained bathtub with a rattling shower attachment. A toilet with a dangling chain pull. A cracked sink with chipped enamel. But today, you're in luck. The hot water is actually hot, a good sign. You move quickly, running through your morning routine while sneaking glances at your watch. 7 minutes. 8. You know you can't take longer. Others are waiting. Back in your family's room, your mother is already up, heating water on a little electric burner. It's technically not allowed, but everyone has one tucked away. She's making tea, strong, black, the kind that fuels every Russian morning. In the corner, the family samovar sits polished and ready. It's more than just a teapot. It's a survivor, passed down through generations, having outlived the revolution, the Civil War, Stalin's purges, and even the Great Patriotic War, what Russians call World War II. "Hurry," she tells you gently. Your father has already left, standing in line at the bakery. That's his role in the family routine. 3 times a week, before dawn, he joins the bread line. Bread is one of the few consistent pleasures of Soviet life. The state keeps it cheap, but that doesn't mean it's easy to get. You have to be willing to wait. On his days, he always brings back enough, not just for your family, but for the nights down the hall as well. On alternate days, Mr. Knopf takes his turn in the bread line. These quiet arrangements, these small networks of give and take, are how people manage to get by. Mutual aid isn't just kindness here, it's survival. Your mother sets a steaming cup of strong black tea in your hands, along with a bowl of buckwheat porridge, sweetened with a rare spoonful of sugar. You eat quickly, standing, the routine so familiar You don't even think about it anymore. They're saying there might be oranges at the gastronome today, your mother mentions, meaning the state food shop a few blocks away. I'll try during my lunch break. Oranges. Even hearing the word feels like a burst of color in the gray monotony of winter. They show up only occasionally, fruits from Soviet Georgia or on rare occasions from abroad. Their scarcity makes them precious. If your mother is lucky enough to find some, one will be tucked away, saved for a special day, maybe even for New Year's, still months away. You drain the last of your tea, grab your heavy wool coat from its hook, practical, not fashionable, and prepare to leave. Before stepping out, you glance into the small mirror by the door. Your clothes are neat, clean, but hardly stylish. Then again, fashion isn't the point in the Soviet 1950s. Functionality comes first. The stairwell outside the apartment is dim, smelling faintly of boiled cabbage and tobacco smoke. The elevator, once a modern convenience in the 1930s, has been out of order for as long as anyone remembers. You make your way down 5 flights, your footsteps echoing in the hollow space. Outside, the chill hits immediately. October in Leningrad marks the start of the long slide into winter. The sky is the dull color of wet cement. A fine drizzle falls, not quite rain, but enough to dampen your coat and your mood. On the street, people move quickly, collars turned up, heads bowed against the drizzle. At the tram stop, workers crowd together, stamping their feet for warmth. When the tram finally grinds to a halt, it's already packed. Still, somehow, everyone forces their way in, bodies pressed together in a closeness nobody acknowledges. The tram rattles through the streets of Leningrad, weaving through layers of history. Past once grand imperial buildings, now carved into overcrowded communal apartments like your own. Past the hastily built housing blocks of the post-war years, erected to fill the desperate need for shelter. Past Baroque palaces, constructivist workers' clubs, and the heavy stone facades of Stalinist architecture. The city itself is a palimpsest, eras piled one on top of another. Through the fog tram windows, you catch fragments of the morning scene, lines already forming outside shops, women holding string bags, waiting hopefully for deliveries, street sweepers in bright orange vests clearing yesterday's litter, posters on walls proclaiming the triumph of the latest 5-year plan, smiling workers exceeding quotas, their painted faces glowing with socialist pride. Inside the tram, reality feels different. The faces around you are weary, drained. People aren't inspired by slogans. They're resigned to another day of work, whether in the factory or in an office where initiative means little. Meeting the plan is what matters, not creativity, not innovation. And yet, beneath the fatigue, there is stability. Everyone has a job. Everyone has a place, however modest. When your stop arrives, you push your way toward the exit, muttering, "Excuse me," and "Pardon," as you brush against damp coats and step on toes. Back outside, you join the steady current of workers streaming toward the factory gates. The Kirov Works stretches out before you, a vast industrial complex where thousands of men and women churn out machinery for the Soviet state. Smokestacks pump gray plumes into an already gray sky. The clang of metal on metal echoes constantly, forming the soundtrack of the city. The factory is more than just a workplace. It's a world of its own, with its own rhythms, rules, and hierarchies. At the entrance, you hand your papers to the guard. He barely glances at them. He sees you every day, after all. Inside, you make your way to your section, nodding at familiar faces as you pass. The changing room is thick with body heat and the damp smell of wool. Workers peel off street clothes and pull on heavy-duty uniforms. Conversations are low and practical. Who's heard about a shipment of winter boots arriving at the department store? Whose child has fallen ill? Which section might hit its quota this month and earn a bonus? Your locker holds your work clothes. Sturdy trousers, a thick shirt, and the protective gear needed for your specific job. You change quickly. Time is not your friend here. Being late risks more than a lecture from a shift supervisor. It could mean unwanted attention from the ever-watchful party representative who monitors discipline. On the factory floor, the noise swallows you whole, machines pounding, gears grinding, the screech of metal against metal. Foremen shout to be heard above the roar. The air is dense with the smell of hot oil, scorched metal, and the sweat of hundreds of bodies working in unison. Your station is a lathe. Your task, shaping raw chunks of metal into precise parts for tractors. Those tractors will eventually roll out to collective farms across the country. Tools in the grand mission to mechanize agriculture and boost production. The work is repetitive, but you take a certain pride in it. There's a small satisfaction in watching raw steel transformed into something useful. Knowing that, in your own way, you're helping to feed the nation, the morning unfolds in the steady rhythm of labor. Your hands move almost automatically now, muscle memory guiding each step. Your mind drifts, as it often does, maybe to the idea of saving enough money for a radio. Maybe to the dream of one day moving into your own apartment through the factory housing list, though the wait could stretch for years. Maybe even to the thought of seeing your name on the factory's honor board of top workers with the extra pay and respect that comes with it. Around you, the machinery of Soviet industry keeps grinding. Each worker at their post, each one a small cog in the vast machine of the planned economy. Quotas to meet, targets to fulfill. The slogans speak of building socialism, of the new Soviet man and woman forging the future through labor, but you've seen the truth behind the posters. Corners cut when supplies run low. Quality sacrificed for quantity whenever the end of the month approaches, and quotas loom large, official numbers massaged and reported upward, bearing little resemblance to what was actually produced. You see, too, the subtle acts of resistance, workers slowing down when no supervisor is watching, saving their strength, jokes whispered over tea breaks, quiet mockeries of the system that feeds them, but that no one fully trusts, and always the informal networks, the favors, the quiet deals that keep things running when official channels inevitably fail. This is the double reality of life in the Soviet 1950s, the world of posters and slogans and the world behind them. The official story is always the same, socialism marching forward, progress inevitable, but the lived reality tells a different tale. Ordinary people juggling shortages, endless bureaucracy, and the thousand small frustrations of daily life. By mid-morning, the factory horn sounds. 10 minutes. Just enough time to stretch your bake, grab a cigarette if you smoke, or exchange a few quiet words with colleagues. The cafeteria opens its doors, serving weak tea and the usual plain snacks. Some workers bring their own food, a simple sandwich, maybe leftover kasha from breakfast. You step outside instead, grateful for the damp, cool air, even with the drizzle still falling. The factory yard is a sea of gray concrete, but beyond its walls, the city rises. And beyond the city, a faint glimpse of the Baltic Sea. Even through the haze of industry, Leningrad holds a certain beauty. A city raised by Peter the Great as Russia's window to the west. A city that endured 900 days of Nazi siege and still stands. The horn blares again, breaks over, back inside, back to the machines, back to the quotas, back to the socialist future, built one tractor part at a time. The rest of the day stretches out in front of you, predictable in its demands, yet always alive with the small human dramas every workplace carries. Adjusting your protective goggles, checking your tools, you slip back into the rhythm. You are one of thousands, each playing a part in a vast experiment, an attempt to build a different kind of society. It is a system full of contradictions, rigid ideology paired with constant shortages, security mixed with repression. The slogans promise equality and prosperity, yet daily life is riddled with obstacles. And still, there's comfort here too. A job you can count on, a roof over your head, a sense of belonging in something larger than yourself. The lathe hums again, metal shavings curling away in tight spirals, piece by piece. The work continues. Another part takes shape beneath your practiced hands. Another small contribution to the Soviet machine. Hours pass, each one marked by the slow tick of the factory clock, watched with equal parts impatience and hope. Time inside the factory has its own rhythm. It drags during the long middle hours, then suddenly quickens as the shift's end draws near. You keep working, your hands steady, your thoughts drifting. Maybe to the letter you received yesterday from a cousin in Moscow. Maybe to the rumor that the factory might exceed its quota this month, meaning bonus pay for everyone. Maybe to the evening ahead, the small rituals that make up ordinary life. Around you, the factory roars like an orchestra, the pounding of machines, the shouts of foremen, the clatter of metal and wood, all blending into a relentless industrial symphony. This is the sound of socialism being built, the posters say, and maybe that's true, or maybe it's more complicated. The horn sounds again, long and loud. Shift change. It's 1962 now. Almost a decade has passed since Stalin's death, and the Soviet Union has changed. Khrushchev's thaw has loosened the atmosphere slightly. The suffocating fear that once shadowed every conversation has eased, though it never vanishes completely. People speak more openly, but still measure their words, still glance over their shoulders. And you've moved up in the world. Years of steady labor at the Kirov works have carried you forward, step by step. You've been promoted, now a section supervisor at a newer factory in Moscow. The capital hums with a restless energy that Leningrad, for all its beauty, could never quite match. Moscow is the beating heart of Soviet power, the place where decisions made inside the Kremlin ripple out to shape the lives of millions. And for you, the change has brought something even more personal. For the first time in your life, you live in your own apartment. Not just a single room in a kommunalka, but a real one-bedroom apartment in one of the Khrushchevkas, the 5-story housing blocks springing up all across Moscow. The buildings themselves are plain, cheaply built, with thin walls and kitchens that barely fit a table, but they offer something priceless: privacy, your own front door, your own bathroom, your own kitchen. After years of communal living, it feels like unimaginable luxury. From the outside, the rows of identical Khrushchevkas look like giant filing cabinets for people. But step inside, and each apartment tells its own story. Families transform the standardized spaces with rugs, curtains, photographs, small touches that turn uniformity into home. Yours has a little balcony where you've placed a few hardy plants that do their best against Moscow's polluted air. The furniture is standard Soviet issue, sturdy, practical, Not particularly elegant, but it's yours, and that makes all the difference. Your mornings have changed, too. You wake now to the ring of an alarm clock, not to the sound of neighbors arguing in the hallway. The bathroom is free whenever you want it. Breakfast is still simple: tea, bread with butter. But you make it in your own kitchen, at your own pace. Small freedoms, yet each one feels enormous. Your commute is different as well. The Moscow Metro, pride of the Soviet Union, is nothing like the subways of other countries. These stations are underground palaces, adorned with mosaics, sculptures, and chandeliers. Yes, it's propaganda, but it's beautiful propaganda, meant to remind every worker that the Soviet system values them enough to make even their commute feel grand. You stand on the platform among crowds of workers, clerks, and engineers heading across the capital. When the train arrives, it does so with perfect precision. The metro is famously reliable. You squeeze aboard with dozens of others, pressed close, but silence reigns. Few speak. Some read newspapers or novels, but most just stare ahead, conserving their energy for the day ahead. Your stop is in an industrial district on Moscow's edge. The factory here is modern, built during the post-war expansion. Its purpose: to produce components for Soviet televisions. Televisions are still luxuries for many families, but they're becoming more common. Symbols of a rising standard of living. As a section supervisor, your work is no longer just about your own productivity. You oversee 20 workers, ensuring quotas are met, discipline is kept, and solving the inevitable problems: shortages of parts, machines breaking down. It's a delicate balance, caught between the expectations of upper management and the everyday struggles of workers on the floor. You arrive early, as always. A good supervisor leads by example. Your office is little more than a glass-walled cubicle overlooking the factory floor, but to you, it marks real progress. On your desk sits a family photo, a telephone linking you to other departments, and the usual piles of paperwork, the endless documentation that keeps the gears of the Soviet bureaucracy grinding. The morning begins with a supervisor's meeting. Presiding over it is Comrade 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧, the factory director, a party loyalist, capable enough, but holding his position more thanks to his political reliability than any technical skill. The real expertise belongs to his deputy, Chief Engineer Sokolov, who knows the machines inside and out and keeps the place running. This split between political authority and practical expertise is typical of the Soviet system. Comrades, 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧 begins, his voice carrying across the room. I've just returned from the ministry meeting. The production targets for the third quarter have been raised. We're expected to increase output by 12%. A ripple of unease runs through the supervisors. 12% is no small adjustment, especially coming halfway through the year, when materials and resources have already been distributed according to the original plan. Where exactly are we supposed to find the extra supplies? Asks Antonina Sainer, the assembly section supervisor. She's been with the factory since its opening, and she's never been afraid to voice difficult questions. 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧 shrugs, giving a practiced smile. The ministry assures us that additional shipments will follow. In the meantime, comrades, we must uncover reserves within our current allocations. Everyone in the room understands the unspoken message. Reserves is the code word. It doesn't mean official supplies. It means cutting corners, stretching what's available, and improvising, exactly as Soviet factories have always done to keep the machines turning. These creative solutions are essential though they're never written into reports. The meeting carries on. There are updates about a shipment delayed from Surlosk, a reminder that party officials will be visiting next week, even an announcement about the upcoming factory sports competition. But beneath all these discussions lies the same quiet understanding. Official targets and everyday reality rarely line up. The gap between them must be bridged carefully, invisibly. When the meeting ends, you return to your section to greet your team as they trickle in. You know each of them well, their strengths, their weaknesses, their personal struggles. There's Mikhail, a skilled technician whose drinking sometimes gets the better of him. Galina, fresh from technical school, eager but inexperienced. And old Fyodor, who still carries memories of the war, working with careful precision, but always at his own slow pace. "Good morning, comrades," you say as the group gathers. "We've been given new targets. A 12% increase." The reaction is immediate. Groans. A few eye rolls. Some muttered curses under the breath, but no open resistance. Everyone knows the rhythm of the system. Targets go up, workers adapt, life carries on. "We'll start by reviewing our inventory," you continue. "Galina, Nikolai, check the storage room, count everything, and don't forget the unofficial reserves." Everyone knows what that means. The unofficial reserves are the stockpiles of components and raw materials quietly set aside for emergencies. It's technically against the rules, but without them, production would collapse every time the supply system failed. In truth, these hidden reserves are what keep the quotas achievable at all. As the workers disperse, you feel the familiar pressure of your position. The state demands results. To meet those numbers, you must push your workers harder and faster, but push too hard and quality drops, or the machinery breaks. Hold back and the quotas slip, with consequences not just for bonuses, but potentially for your own career. The factory floor soon settles into its daily rhythm. Machines hammer, components move along the line. Workers carry out their tasks, some with focus, others with weary resignation. Your role is to keep everything flowing, to solve problems before they escalate, to balance the constant tug-of-war between speed and quality. By mid-morning, the first problem hits. A machine on the assembly line grinds to a halt. Ivan, the operator, wipes his forehead and shakes his head in frustration. "Same as last month," he mutters. "The motor's overheating again." You step over to inspect it. The machine should have been replaced years ago, but the new equipment promised by the ministry never arrived. "Get Petro from maintenance," you tell a nearby worker. You turn back to Ivan. "Can you switch over to the backup unit for now?" He nods reluctantly. The backup machine is older, slower, far less efficient, but it still works. Another makeshift solution. Another quiet reminder of how Soviet industry survives. By squeezing life out of outdated equipment, long past its intended use. Improvisation isn't an exception here. It's the rule. Before long, Petro arrives, toolbox in hand. He's an older man, nearing retirement, with decades of experience keeping machines alive that should have been scrapped years ago. He bends over the stalled motor, sighing as he inspects it. "I'll do what I can," he says, "but we really need the new part from Kharkov." "Is there anything in the workshop we might adapt?" you ask, lowering your voice slightly. The real question: can he improvise something, make a part that isn't official, but we will keep the line moving? Petro scratches his chin, thinking. Maybe. Let me see what Sergei has tucked away. He heads off toward the maintenance workshop. Everyone knows that Sergei, the head of maintenance, keeps his own quiet stockpile. Pieces salvaged from retired equipment, odds and ends fabricated on slow days. Officially, it doesn't exist. In practice, it's what keeps the factory running. This is the hidden rhythm of Soviet industry. The formal system, rigid plans, centralized supply lines, endless paperwork, moves too slowly to solve immediate problems. So, alongside it, a shadow system thrives. Personal favors, hidden inventories, creative interpretations of the rules. It's how things actually get done, though no one ever admits it aloud. By noon, Petro has the broken machine sputtering back to life. He wipes his hands on a rag and warns, "It'll hold for now, but without the proper part, it won't last." You nod, already thinking ahead. Maybe it's time to call your contact at the Cairo factory. Last year, you slipped them a shipment of capacitors during their shortage. Perhaps now they'll repay the favor. Quiet exchanges like that are the lifeblood of production, flowing beneath the surface of official reports and party slogans. The lunch break brings a short reprieve. In the cafeteria, the menu is simple but filling. Cabbage soup, cutlety meat patties with mashed potatoes, and a glass of sweet compote. The prices are heavily subsidized, another promise of the system. No one will go hungry, even if the meals are more fuel than feast. Workers eat quickly, some with their noses buried in the factory newspaper, others chatting about last night's hockey game or trading bits of family news. Conversations are brief, practical fragments of ordinary life, wedged between the demands of the machines. And so the workday rolls on. Machines clattering, workers pushing, supervisors juggling impossible demands. On paper, it looks like progress. In reality, it's a daily dance of improvisation, resilience, and quiet compromise. This was life inside the Soviet Union, not the Cold War caricature of spies and secret police lurking in every shadow, but something far stranger and more human. A world of shortages and slogans, of rigid plans that bent only because ordinary people found ways to bend them. So, the next time you turn on your TV or sit down to a meal, think about the hidden stories behind those comforts. For millions of people, just keeping the lights on or the machines running required not just labor, but creativity and endurance. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into everyday Soviet life, make sure to hit like or subscribe. It really helps me keep bringing these stories to you. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from right now? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay comfortable, and remember, history is never as simple as the slogans.